Hello class, and welcome to this Quest for Glory 1 walkthrough, right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and that name very apt today in particular, as the namesake for Let's Play with Brigands, our main channel, comes from this game. The antagonists, if you will, of this game are the Brigands. And over the years, I've done playthroughs of every single game in this series, arguably my favorite series of all time. And I've done it with all the different character types. Actually, we'll have a link in the description of the video for this class. You can check out my full playthroughs of every single character type of every single game. Happy to be able to do that, so check those out for more in-depth information on any of those. But I thought it would be fun, now that we've done all of them, to come over here on Video Games 101 and put together a complete walkthrough for Quest for Glory 1, which is comprised of every single character type in this game you can play as. By the way, just want to mention before we get started, please subscribe to this channel if you have not yet done so already. We do one of these videos every single week, one of these classes. We would love to have you aboard. It's still a very young channel, and just love to have you as a subscriber, so thank you in advance. But, so the normal way of doing things on this channel, we're getting a little shake-up, basically. So we see some familiar names involved in this labor of love, a lot of names from the Sierra Galaxy, Jeff Crow right there, Mark Seibert. But I digress. Our normal staff has been kind of repurposed to some extent today. There's just too many items for Blaze to cover, and there's not really any bosses that Gary can cover. So instead, we're reprioritizing and putting Blaze as our fighter guru, Gary as our magic user guru. I'll be covering the thief playthrough duties, and Fluff is going to give us some facts and tips about this game in general. So we're going to bounce back and forth between the different playthroughs, basically, as we get to each puzzle and show you how everything is done with every character type, basically. And we're not going to show you the entire game step for step, beat for beat. We're just going to jump around to the various objectives that you have in the game. And to be clear, there are different ways that you can go about doing it, or different orders, I should say. Different ways of solving puzzles as well. It's not just limited to different character types, so we'll be covering all that. But just, I'd like to mention that, you can jump around. This is an open world, but this is just sort of my recommended way of going about and doing everything. First things first, though, we need to select a character type. We have the fighter, the magic user, and the thief, which actually kind of sounds like a best-selling novel title, actually, now that I hear it out loud. But they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. Speaking of strengths, we first have the fighter. Probably the easiest playthrough if it's your first time, or just in general, it is the easiest way to play through the game. Not as much skill involved. You don't have to develop your skills as much as the other character types. All you need to rely on with the fighter is your strength and your weapon use, basically. They take everything head on. Combat is very satisfying with the fighter. They have that long sword, and yeah, fighter's a good time if it's your first time. I recommend it. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the magic user, probably the most difficult character type to play as, at least in the beginning of this game. Kind of the steepest curve, because you start out in the game, you have no money, or very little money at least. You have no spells, despite being a magic user. I think you have one spell to your name. And with money being very hard to come by, you can't afford other spells. So the fighter can just go out and start beating up a bunch of goblins or something and make some scratch that way. The thief can, steal to make their money. But the magic user has to just kind of slum it for the first, 20, 30 minutes of the game. So, we'll talk about that as we get into it. But just know that magic user is great. They have all the spells and everything, so that's a lot of fun to work with. But yeah, it's a tough out at the very beginning, as I found out when I did my playthrough with the magic user. And last but not least, we have the thief, probably the most fun playthrough of all the types, because, it's just fun to break into people's houses, and, I always loved the contrast of being a hero in all of these different lands throughout the series, but also stealing so much from so many people. Usually people who deserved it, sometimes not, but it is fun to be the thief. Sneak around, avoid battles if you want to. Hang out in the Thief Guild in this game. There's a lot of extra content associated with the Thief, which you don't get with the other character types. But again, we're going to show you everything in this walkthrough, all the important moments and solutions to the puzzles with the various types. So let's get into it as we start with our Thieving McSteels Jr. here. And let's go to Fluff for a breakdown of the different traits here in Quest for Glory and what they all mean.
Thank you, Professor. And I just want to say before we move on to talk about the skills, you were talking about the character types. Lori and Corey Cole, the creators of the Quest for Glory galaxy, they initially planned for not just 3 human character types, but 4 different races altogether. This included a well-rounded human character, a magic-using elf, a thieving gnome, and a centaur who specialized in archery. They were even planning the option for a female player character as well. But due to resource constraints, they had to settle on just creating multiple classes for the one human character. They also planned on allowing you to enter pretty much all the buildings in Spielburg. They were going to include a giant goblin maze, and they were even going to give the magic user their own familiar like Erasmus has with Fenris. But again, alas, the resource constraints didn't allow for any of this. But anyway, let's talk about the skills and where you should spend your points. So strength, intelligence, and agility kind of break down for the fighter, the magic user, and the thief, respectively, but they all have their own purposes. Strength is good if you're a fighter because it lets you hit harder and, do things that are based on strength, like opening heavy doors and things like that. This also ties into how much HP you have, so not a bad idea to put some points into this, especially if you're a fighter. Then we have intelligence. This makes your spells more effective if you are the magic user, but it also grants you more MP, the mana points. So again, very important if you are a magic user. You can get this up by casting spells or just solving puzzles throughout the game and playing the game. You'll see this stat going up. Then agility is good. This is tied to your stamina. Thieves thrive on agility, but all character types could use some stamina. So again, not a bad place to put some points in that case. And you can get this up through throwing rocks and climbing and sneaking around if you're the thief, dodging in combat. Then we have vitality, which is good for everybody. This is health points and stamina. You can get this up by, again, doing things like physical activity, doing fights, climbing, things like that. And then we have luck, which is kind of the X factor. It sort of just, in my mind, determines how likely you are to succeed when you're trying to do something like cast a spell or sneak and avoid a monster and things like that. So increasing it is kind of tricky. It just kind of goes up, but you might want to throw some points into that if you're not sure, if you're trying to balance everything out. Then we go to the more specific skills like weapon use. Obviously, this mostly just applies to the fighter. I mean, everyone can do more damage if they get their weapon use up. The more fights they do, the more they use their weapons. But the fighter in particular benefits from this. You can get this up by getting into fights. Then we have parry. Again, good for the fighter who has the shield. You can get this up by blocking in battle. And similar, we have the dodge. If you dodge in battle, you can get this up. This allows you to avoid damage when you're fighting. It's good for some of the heavier hitting enemies in this game, like the ogre or the troll or the minotaur. Then we have the stealth. This is specifically just for thieves. You need to make sure that you're sneaking from the very start of the game if you are a thief. You might want to put some points into this as well, because near the end of the game, if you beat this game relatively quickly, you're going to need some points, some extra points in this skill, just to be able to sneak around at a later point in the game, which I'm sure the professor will talk about then. We have lock picking, again, specific to the thief. Get it up by picking locks, pretty straightforward. Throwing, you can just pick up some rocks and toss them around. It's good for getting some secondary stats up. The chief thief, if you're a thief, will challenge you to a dagger throwing competition on the dartboard, the dagger board, and you can use your throwing skill to get better at that, but again, we'll talk about that. Then we have climbing, which you can use for climbing, pretty straightforward. Everyone can climb, but Yeah, the thief uses this quite a bit, but it's good for everybody. It helps get your strength up as well, so they kind of go hand in hand. But this gets up just by climbing trees and climbing over the gate of Spielburg and things like that, so you don't really need to put too many points into that from the start. And then we have magic, just, use your magic when you're the magic user. But the important thing to mention about points is that the things that start off as 0, you won't be able to use them unless you put some points into them. And you'll have to put at least 15 of your 50 points in to get it from 0 just to get on the board. So you can do pretty much anything you want with all the character types in this first game. So if you want to be able to use magic, make sure you put some points in magic at the start if you're not a magic user. Same thing with lockpicking or sneaking, things like that. If you don't put any points in, you won't be able to do it as the game progresses.
All right, thank you very much, Fluff. So we start our game here. We enter Spielburg for the first time. You'll notice we're playing in the 1989 EGA version of this game, the original version. We'll be bouncing back and forth between this and the VGA version throughout this course, this class and video. So just keep that in mind. There is virtually no difference in the solutions to the puzzles between the two games. So this Quest for Glory 1 walkthrough will serve you regardless of which version you're playing. But yes, we will kind of honor both by showing you both at different times throughout this class. So there's not that much going on in Spielburg to do at the start of the game. It's designed with 2 dead ends, basically. To the left, we have one screen where we have the magic shop, a old woman's house where you can rob it if you're the thief, and the Adventurers Guild, where you can just kind of talk to the famous adventurer in there and sign your name to the guest book with a flourish, get some points out of that, basically. On this screen, we have the Hero's Tale Inn, which is owned by Shima and Shamin, a couple Kata people who we'll see throughout the series. You can sleep there, have a good night's rest there, get a nice meal there. Note that they close up around midnight, so you want to make sure you get in there before then if you want to take advantage of getting that set good night's rest where you get most of your health and all your stamina back. So, good way to recharge after you've been doing some heroing, some adventuring. You'll find that you can't open the door to the barber shop. And come up here to this screen, you'll see a fruit vendor. We can purchase some apples from her, which we actually do need to do. You should buy 50 apples, so she sells them 10 apiece, so you want to buy basically, you can see how much money we have from the start here. Doesn't matter which character type you are, you're going to want to buy these apples for a puzzle later on in the game. So we'll ask her about the apples. Obviously in the VGA version, it's all point and click, so you just click the mouth icon on her. Or better said, if you want to buy the apples, click your money bag on her. So we're just going to buy 50 apples, so 10 apples 5 times basically. And we can go into the dry goods shop here. He'll sell us some rations, things like that, some better armor for later on, but it's not all that necessary right now, nothing you need to worry about. And going left one more screen in Spielburg, we get to the end of the town here. We can go in this alley and give the beggar some money, and he'll get some points for that. You'll find you get a lot of points just for talking to people for the first time, doing good deeds, things like that. If you want a perfect score, you need to talk to everybody, you need to do everything. It's very difficult to get a perfect score, and we're not going to give you the rundown on how to do everything in that sense, because there's a lot of really small ticky-tack things. And, I've played this game dozens of times over the years. I don't know that I've ever gotten a completely perfect score in this game, but we could still do quite well for ourselves. So give him some silver. He'll give you a tip. Don't drink the dragon's breath. We can't go in the baker's shop. We can't go in the butcher's shop, but we can go into the tavern here. So let's head inside. You want to check back in the tavern a couple times throughout the game on various days, and you'll find notes kind of balled up on the ground. You'll see one beneath this stool here, and there'll be some updates throughout the course of the game. Eventually you'll get instructions on where you should go to kind of eavesdrop on a very important meeting, but we'll get to that a little bit later. For now, you can buy yourself a drink if you want one. A word of warning, don't try the dragon's breath. Make sure you save before you get into it. By the way, this is probably the only class we've done so far on this channel where we haven't handicapped the difficulty for the game. We haven't shown you the difficulty scale. And that's simply because with a point-and-click type adventure game like this, difficulty isn't really relevant when you have this walkthrough and you have the ability to save. Just make sure you save a lot, save under different file names, and it's a good idea to make sure that you label them appropriately so that you know, with nice descriptive titles, which each save state where it's referring to and how far back in the game it might be and everything like that. But yeah, just make sure you do that. If you're following along with this guide, you'll be okay, but just, just in case. You never know when you might get into a battle you weren't anticipating and, a troll pops out and kills you or something like that. So we are trying the Dragon's Breath here, just for fun, since we did just save. You can see firsthand why you shouldn't drink it and why all the warnings. Let's pound it. Never tasted anything like it before. And oh wow. If it burns a hole, well, it just kind of vaporizes you. And yeah, maybe we should have taken the advice. Talk about a fiery brew. But anyway, that guy on the stool, his name is Crusher. He's only important or relevant to us if we are a thief. So we'll come back to him later. We need to do something tonight before we can talk to him or have any business with him. But that pretty much concludes our business here in Spielburg for now. You can see the butcher and the baker right there. Not sure where the candlestick maker is. Maybe he's passed out there at the stool at the end of the bar. But yeah, for right now, we're done with Spielburg. We're ready to venture out into the world. Whether or not you're playing the EGA or VGA version of the game, you'll see this message when you leave town for the first time. Just a reminder that there are a lot of screens in this game where enemies have a chance to randomly generate and come after you, and if they catch up to you, you'll enter a battle, so it can be dangerous. But before we get into the actual Quest for Glory 1 walkthrough, talking about the objectives that you need to do to complete the game, let's get a quick overview of how to start out with the various character types, starting with Blaze with the Fighter.
Alright, the professor already explained that the Fighter probably the easiest character type to beat Quest for Glory 1 with. But still, we're going to give you some tips on how to hit the ground running in Quest for Glory 1 with the Fighter. First, as soon as you leave Spielburg, go north one screen outside the healer's hut. There you will find a large tree. Climb the tree or just pick up some rocks from the ground and throw them at the nest in the tree. You want to get the ring that's in that nest, give it back to the healer. She will give you 60 silver coins for that ring. You can turn these in for stamina potions, buy 2 or 3 of them, however much they cost at that point. You can really use all of your silver on stamina potions. Once you have a bunch of those, head straight west, that's the left, till you get to the Goblin Central Combat Training Zone, where you'll find an endless supply of goblins to fight. Once you get up to 8 goblins, so every time you kill one of the goblins and come back, there will be one more waiting for you on that never-ending goblin conga line. Although it does end with 8 goblins. That's where it maxes out. You kill all 8, you will have 50 silver, roughly, per victory once you clear out all of the goblins, including the big winner at the poker game, 35 silvers into your pocket. But that's more than enough money to unlock all the potions you need over time and eventually the upgrade for the armor at the dry goods store in Spielburg.
Alright, thank you, Blaze. And now a look at the quick start guide for the magic user. Here is Gary.
Alright, as the professor said, the magic user is probably the hardest character to play Quest for Glory with for a number of reasons. It's the hardest character to start the game off with, but these tips will help you hit the ground running as the magic user. So first and foremost, buy the fetch spell from the magic shop. This should cost you all the money that you have early on in the game. So if you went ahead and bought those apples already, then you might need to go out and win one battle to be able to afford it. But once you have the fetch spell, leave town and go north one screen to the healer's hut like Blaze explained. And instead of climbing that tree or throwing any rocks, we're going to do it the magic user way by casting fetch and fetching that ring from the nest. It may take you a few tries, but eventually it'll work. You should have enough points. If you don't, just go rest, get your points back. Once you have that ring, go in the healer's shop, give her the ring, she'll give you the 60 silvers, then head back into Spielburg to the magic shop and buy the Flame Dart spell. Now, this spell is your bread and butter as a magic user in Quest for Glory 1. Once you have this, head all the way to the south to the heavily guarded Brigands HQ. The 2 screens before you get to their hideout will always trigger a brigand to fight you when you enter the screen. So use your flame dart spell on them, either in or before the battle. You can get one off to hit them before they get up to you to do a little damage prematurely. And this will develop the spell, and eventually and occasionally you will be able to kill one of those brigands. And that's important because the brigands in this game carry the most money out of any enemy in this game on average. Once you're out of magic points, just swing your dagger in the fight with the brigands, and even if you don't kill them, you're going to tire yourself out, run when you're almost out of stamina or health points, HP, and then head left back to the screen with the Antwerp, it's the bouncing thing, and then rest to recover a bit of your HP, but mostly your stamina and your magic points. Then head back to the right and rinse and repeat. Eventually, your flame dart spell will be strong enough that you can kill a brigand with just 3 or maybe 4 casts, even before they get to you on the screen. But all the money you're going to be earning from this pattern, this routine that you do, it should be reinvested into more mana potions. And then you just keep drinking them in battle and before battle, and taking out more enemies, getting your flame dart spell even more powerful. And at which point you can go back to town, you can buy the open spell, and you can even head all the way north to Erana's Peace once you have the open spell, and you can get the calm spell on that screen. You grab some flowers as well, that'll trade those in, make some money to the healer. That's a good way to make some money early on as well, if you already bought those apples, so you can afford the fetch spell. Should mention that, it's all the way to the north. But get those flowers for some cash from the healer, and plus you need them for a quest later on, as the professor will explain.
Thank you very much, Blaze, Gary, and I just want to take a quick moment to take a look at the Briggs notes for Quest for Glory 1, the keys to winning. First, save early and save often, very important, as with any Sierra game. Use our specific character type tips, and avoid the Dragon's Breath, just wanted to get that in. But now we'll finish off by talking about the tips for the thief. First, always be sneaking. This will help you to get away with your thieving jobs without getting caught. Eavesdrop on people. It's just a good skill to have when you're a thief. You can avoid battles when you're sneaking. Just make sure you start early on in the game, as you can be sneaking the entire game and still not get it up to 100. So it's good to start at the beginning. But anyway, so we're going to head into this alley on the first night, or any night, but I recommend doing it early on to make some money. And you'll see there's a couple thieves here have set a trap. Now, if we were any other character type, we would just hand over the money, otherwise they would kill us. I actually recommend just avoiding the alley altogether if you're not a thief. But with us being a thief, we can make the international sign that thieves came up with at some point to identify themselves to the other brethren. So we're going to make the thief sign, just type that out. And if you're playing the VGA version, you just click the hand icon on the thief, and they'll say the same thing. They'll give you the password for Crusher at the Tavern, who I mentioned earlier. And the password in the VGA version, I think it's like Swordfish or Shortfish or something like that. And it's Antwerp in this version. But they give you the multiple choice in the VGA. But we're going to head to the Tavern now. And we're going to talk to Crusher. Just type in the password right here. He'll get up and open the door to the seedy Thieves Guild down here. Pretty bare. It's just a guided table with a cup, a dartboard, and a shadowy figure in the background. That's where we fence our different stolen items to make some money. Before we can do that, though, we need to purchase a Thieves Guild license so that we can work in town. I feel like the chief thief is kind of contradicting himself when he's saying, if you don't have the cash, go steal something. But again, he just told us we can't work until we buy this license, so kind of a chicken and the egg situation. But anyway, it's only 25 silvers. We should have that just from our starting money. So let's purchase that from the guy in the back here. Just buy the license. There you go. All right, so now we can embark on the 2 targets here in Spielburg that we can rob. We have our lockpick already, us being a thief. Before we head out and do our first thief job, though, you can actually play darts with the chief thief. You can bet up to 50 silvers. It's 51 in the VGA version, for what it's worth. And I should just point out, even when I got my throwing skill up to 100 in this version, I could still, to save my life, I still could not beat the Chief Thief. He's just too OP in this version for whatever reason I have found. They definitely nerfed him for the VGA version. It's a great way to make a lot of extra money in that version. But in this one, I kind of recommend against trying it out. But you might want to do it once. But, just a couple silvers to try it out. Have some fun. But going outside and throwing around some rocks like we've talked about is a great way to get your throwing up. It's a faster way. And, but yeah, he's too good. He's just hitting bullseyes left and right in this version. But you could do that for what it's worth. So let's head back in the town, and our first stop is going to be next to the fruit cart vendor, next to the general store. That's our first target. Make sure you're sneaking before you head inside. And this is the sheriff's place, actually, kind of ballsy, trying to break into the sheriff's place on our first or second night here in town. But make sure you have some stamina before you try picking the lock. You do anything in this game without stamina, you'll probably die. So just keep that in mind. Get 10 minutes or so of rest in. Make sure you save the game in case you make a bit too much noise as you're trying to pick the lock. You can get your skill up by picking your own nose. I'm not even joking. Bit of a pun there, but it is good for getting your stats up. If your stat is too low, you run the risk of causing brain damage to yourself and losing that way. So just keep that in mind. But yes, picking your nose or just clicking the lockpicks on your hero in the VGA version is a good way to get up that skill. But again, just make sure you save before you do it. And eventually we'll get inside here. And a few things to mention right off the bat. Well, first off, don't try picking up the music box until last. This is especially true in the VGA version. We'll talk about why in just a second. So first thing, we want to pick up this candelabra. That's going to be worth, 60 silvers or so back at the Thieves Guild. We can fence that. Open the drawer here, we can get a few silvers. And just like so many, the trope in so many movies, there is a wall safe behind that painting. We can grab this vase to sell back at the Thieves Guild. But move the painting out of the way and reveal the wall safe. And we can pick the safe and find a bag of coins, and I think it's 50 coins, yeah. Alright, so now we can grab the music box. I don't think it matters in this version, it doesn't make any noise, you just throw it in your pack, but in the VGA version they added that it accidentally goes off the first time you try picking it up, and you won't get caught. Auto will come out in sort of a half sleep, half awake state, and just turn it off and go back to bed. But if you try doing any other thieving work inside the house, then he will hear it being kind of half awake. So just make sure you grab that last, and then the second time you try picking it up, you can put it in your pack without making any more noise, and you'll be good to go. That'll be worth a bit more in the Thieves Guild as you fence it. Otherwise, there's nothing else to grab here. You can open any of those doors if you have a death wish. If you want to get caught, go up the stairs. Just make sure you save before you do it if you want to see a humorous ending screen, a game over screen of being caught by the sheriff or Otto and see his wife come out. Otherwise, we're ready to move on to the next target. And this is going to be next to the magic shop. Again, small town, not a whole lot of places to break into. And this is the place right here. This is the old lady's house. Don't worry about that giant eye watching your every move. I thought that would have some consequences when I was a kid, but not the case. At this point, your lockpicking skill is probably good enough to get inside on your first try. Make sure you're still sneaking. And we have a couple candlesticks here. There's some pearls we can grab. Avoid the cat. You can make sure you pet it. If it gets near you, it needs some attention. Otherwise, it turns into a tiger. It's like a magical cat, apparently. Kind of a guard cat. And the tiger will pounce on you, and the sheriff will show up. It's weird. But yes, we have the pearls that are in the basket, which is probably the most valuable thing. We have the silver candlesticks, and then I think there's one silver in that drawer. But once you have everything, that's pretty much all there is to do in the old lady's place. So now we can take all of our winnings, if you will, back to the Thieves Guild and fence them all in the back, and we should have decent chunk of change after this, being the thief. Let's see how much everything is worth. So we came in with, 3 gold and 77 silver. So let's just convert that to silver. We have 107 silver coins. We have the vase, the candelabra, music box, candlesticks, and the pearls. You can sell the gem, but don't sell the gem. We'll need that to get the good ending, the best ending for the game. So after we sell everything, we go from 107 to 402 silver coins. Not too bad, about 300 we made from just those 2 stops. So now we can get the better Thief's Toolkit, which the only thing I can think of which we want to use this for is late in the game when we're trying to break into the Brigands hideout, going in the back way. Alright, so that's the basics to making money with the 3 character types. Again, I acknowledge that it's the hardest with the magic user. Just focus on that Flame Dart spell strategy that Gary covered, and you get into a nice cycle eventually where you have all the money that you need to afford more potions, and the potions keep you on your feet so that you can keep going in battle and make more money, especially at that Brigands area down in the southmost part of the map, and it just cycles so that you just keep getting better and better. You can buy more potions to stay out in the field longer, fight more enemies, get your stats up, get more money, and just keep going like that. So it's up to you as to how developed you want your hero to be before you start going about and focusing on the objectives and overall plot of the game. But, it's fun just to go around, experience the game, enjoy the kind of RPG elements of the game, develop your hero, kind of take pride in that. It is a lot of fun. So, again, that's really up to you how much you want to put into that, but let's go back to the beginning of the game and just start focusing on the objectives now and how to deal with them with the various character types. Before we do that, though, let's get a quick Fluff fact about Quest for Glory from Fluff.
Many people know this, but initially Quest for Glory was published as Hero's Quest in 1989. This was to keep in line with the established blank quest system that Sierra had in place for each of its main series, like King's Quest, Space Quest, and Police Quest. Shortly after releasing their game, though, they discovered that board game giant Milton Bradley had already trademarked an electronic version of one of their board games with that same name, Hero's Quest, before them, thus forcing Sierra to change it to Quest for Glory, so they still got to keep in that operative quest in the title.
Alright, thank you, Fluff. So now to my recommended order of doing things in this game. From the start of the game, or wherever you are, at whatever point you are at in the game with your character, just head straight east from town. I think it's about 4 or 5 screens to the right of Spielburg, and you'll come across this fox who's stuck in a trap. You can spring the trap and help the fox, and the fox, not only will you get some points, but the fox will give you a nice tip that go talk to the Dryad about breaking an enchantment that the evil Baba Yaga placed on the Baron's daughter. That's sort of the ultimate goal of the game, is to rescue the Baron's son and daughter, as well as driving away the brigands and dealing with Baba Yaga. It's sort of all connected. So the fox will tell us that. We'll get 10 points for that. And from the fox, head north 1 screen and then head right 1 screen. And you'll come to this frost-looking giant. And he wants to barter with you. And we just bought those 50 apples early on in the game. This is who we need to give them to. This will be nice to lighten the load in our pack for one thing. But we'll get a shiny red gem out of it. The one that you saw us try to sell at the Thieves Guild. We're going to hold on to this. We'll need this very late in the game, so just make sure you grab that in exchange for those apples, and he'll disappear back into his cave. And from the Frost Giant screen, go left 5 screens and up 3 screens, and you'll come to these plants that are tossing a seed around. And we need to get this seed for the Dryad that the fox told us about. There's different ways to get the seed. Generally, you can always just climb up like we're going to do with the thief. You can click the hand icon on the seed or on the plant in the VGA version to try to grab it. I think if we just stand still for long enough and the plant spits it back to this area, eventually we'll just reach out and grab it. And I could take a guess, but let's go to Gary for the magic user solution here.
Alright, so while you can slash the flower, or you can just steal it, like the professor talked about, you can use the fetch spell if you're a magic user to easily get the seed.
Alright, thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate it. Alright, so now head south 6 screens and left 3 screens, and you'll come to the Dryad. And even if you haven't talked to her yet, she'll detect that you have the seed on you, give it to her, and she will tell you the 5 components that you need for the Dispel Potion to save the Baron's daughter. And we can go grab those right now, actually. She'll give you the Acorn first right away, so just make sure you grab that after you finish talking to her. It'll drop down at the base of that tree, so pick that up. And now go right 1 screen, up 2, and left 2, and you'll come across these cute little furry creatures, like something out of Jim Henson's mind. These are the Meeps, and we can get the green fur, one of the other spell components that we need, or the potion components for that Dispel Potion. So you have to specifically ask them for green fur to get the fur, and they'll give it to you. And
Professor, I want to mention, on this screen, ask the Meeps about the Detect spell. It's a very important spell. It's going to be useful very, very frequently throughout this series, so make sure you ask them about the Detect spell, and they'll just give it to you. Nice people, the Meeps.
Yes, they are. Thank you very much, Gary. All right, so from the Meep screen, you want to head right 2, down 2, and then all the way to the right, and you'll be at this waterfall right here. And you can fill up one of your flasks. If you don't have an empty container, just drink one of those healing potions that the healer gave you in exchange for the ring earlier, and use the container on the water. This is the flying water that you'll need. And
Professor, I want to mention also, you can go up and talk to the Hermit and ask him about the ladder and then the trigger spell. He'll give you the trigger spell if you ask him about it. Nice guy, the Hermit, just like the Meeps. I think he got it from Erasmus, actually. But speaking of which, once you have the trigger spell, and you have the open spell, and the flame spell, and the fetch spell, once you have all those 4 spells, and I recommend you also have a few mana potions at this point in the game, so make sure you've got some money, and you've bought maybe 4 or 5 mana potions, then you can head to Erasmus's place, which is just north of the Frost Giant's place. Just kind of go left and around and up and to the right from the Frost Giant to get to Erasmus's place, and you can play Mage's Maze. It's a fun little game just for magic users. In the EGA version, this game seems to be a little bit easier, but basically the objective is to get your little guy from the start of the course to the end before Erasmus gets his little guy there. And you can do things by like removing obstacles like boulders and moving ladders around to reach the finish line before Erasmus. You can use Fetch to move the ladders, Trigger to make your guy grow to climb the ladder, Open to move a boulder that's blocking your way, and you can drop the occasional flame using your Flame Dart spell to lure your guy in the direction you want him to go.
All right, thank you very much, Gary. And then if you win, yeah, you get that, I guess, the Razzle Dazzle spell. But anyway, all right, so assuming you're still at the waterfall, we need to go left 1 screen next, up 3, left 1, up 4, right 1, and up 1. And this will take us to Erana's piece. And you may have been here earlier. I think Gary mentioned coming up here to get the calm spell. This is one of the few places you can sleep at night when you're away from Spielburg and not get killed by a night gaunt. So just keep that in mind if you're caught out after hours and you can't scale that wall for whatever reason. Or if it's just too late to get to the inn, even if you're in town. So grab some flowers. This is the second to last component we need for that potion. You get some fruit that'll top off your stamina, I think, give you some health back. Take a nap here again, sleep here at night if you want. It's safe. And speaking of night, for the final component for this Dispel Potion, we need it to be night. So if you want to pass time in this game, basically you just have to sleep as much as you can. And if your stamina's too high, then it'll tell you that, you're too restless to sleep right now or something like that. You can just get into a battle, do a bunch of dodging or attacking or whatever you want to do to get that stamina down. Run away, get to a safe screen, and just take some naps until the sun goes down, things get dark, and once it's dark, you can head to the Mushroom Circle, which is, I think, 2 screens to the right of the Meeps, 2 to the left of the Graveyard, 2 down from the Goblin Training Grounds, basically. So it's sort of on the western part of the map right there. You'll probably run through it at some point. Here you will find a bunch of fairies flying around the Mushroom Grove. Whatever you do, be careful not to walk into the Mushroom Grove at nighttime when the fairies are around. They don't take kindly to that. They will make you dance until you die. It's, yeah. So they'll ask you to dance for them. Go ahead and do it. Say yes. Once you finish dancing, they'll ask you what you want. Just tell them you want the fairy dust. It's kind of tricky clicking on the fairies in the VGA version to talk to them. But make sure you have an empty flask before you ask for the dust. Otherwise, it'll be wasted. So just pound that other healing potion to get yourself another flask freed up. And yeah, that's how you collect it. And we have everything we need. We can head back to the healer's place now, which from this screen would be 2 north and then all the way to the right. But she's closed at night, so there you go. So you might want to go into town at this point, get a good night's rest, and the next day, head into the healer's place, give her all of those components, and then if you leave and then come back, I think just a second later, she'll have it all ready for you. And you've done a big portion of this game by putting together the Dispel Potion. So kudos on that. The next thing we're going to do is very important to the plot. We're going to rescue the Baron's son. I recommend before you do this that your stats are pretty decent in terms of, whatever type of class you are. I'd say if you're a fighter, make sure your strength and weapon skill are up pretty high. If you're a magic user, make sure your offensive spell, your flame dart, is up pretty high. And if you're a thief, make sure you've got good sneaking abilities at this point, as we'll need each of these to get through this next section, depending on how you want to do it or which character type you're using. To get there, it's just south one screen of Erana's piece and then to the right one. So it's like the most northeastern point in all of Spielburg. But let's go first to Blaze and see the fighter solution. Best way to do this as the fighter.
All right, first off, the troll that's guarding the Kobold's cave. Take it out through the conventional means. That's why you're a fighter. Just make sure you get your stats up to a certain point at this point in the game. Spend a lot of time at that Goblin Training Center. But your weapon skills should be pretty good at this point in the game. Your strength should be high. You should have no problem taking down the troll. If you can't take him down in one sitting, run away, pop some potions while you stay on the screen, then go back and finish the job off. Once you're inside, give the bear some food to kind of calm it down, sate it, go past him, and then just run up to that kobold, just start fighting. It's the best character type to take on the kobold. Otherwise, it's kind of a tough fight, but as the fighter just keeps stabbing, you'll take that kobold down before too long, especially with the more training that you've done in terms of your stats for the fighter. But then grab that key, just open up that chest, watch out for the explosion, but you're a fighter, you can take it, and you just made yourself about 70 silver coins richer.
Thank you, Blaze. I think it might even be like 10 gold, so it's a really nice ransom right there in that chest. But let's go to Gary now for the tricky magic user solution here.
All right, the Kobold is the toughest out if you're the magic user, like a lot of things in this game, unfortunately. If you're taking them on late in the game like you should, your flame dart should be pretty powerful at this point. So just keep chucking them at the Kobold. He will have his reversal spell, so they'll bounce back at you occasionally. Make sure you have a lot of healing potions on hand. Be pounding those as necessary, but just keep blasting them with your offensive spell. And you could actually keep alternating between the Razzle Dazzle spell you got from Erasmus and the Flame Dart. And that'll keep him preoccupied the whole time, so you can hit him with your fire when he's dazzled and take him down that way before he gets any shots off. Cast a trigger spell to open the chest, and it will explode. But there you go. You get some silvers out of that chest, just like the other character types, without needing to use the key.
All right, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Blaze. All right, so let's go back to the thief way of doing things. It's kind of tricky to sneak around. I guess it's an ogre technically, but there's a troll later on. He's a big fella, and if you're a thief, you might not have the skills to take him down. You can try casting Calm to chill him out a little bit, but if you're just a pure thief who's not dabbling in magic, just run around him basically. Just lure him over to the left and run away, and you can go all the way around him. Inside the cave, we're going to feed the bear once again to get by him. Make sure you're sneaking at this point in the game. You don't want to head to the next screen without sneaking ahead of time. I hope your sneak is at a decent level at this point. If you've been sneaking all throughout the game like I recommended in the opening, you should be fine. But in this next chamber past the bear, you'll be in the Kobold's main room, and just make sure you save before you do this, just in case. And sneak over, and we can actually steal the key from right around the Kobold's neck. Pretty impressive, actually. What skills. You can grab those mushrooms there. Then pick the lock on the chest. You can just kind of bump into it down here, and if your skill is high enough, you can open it without it exploding and the Kobold finding out about it. Skill doesn't even need to be that high, honestly. If you've done the thief missions earlier, you should be okay. But you should get some decent cash from that chest. Actually, now I see it's 160 silver, 10 gold plus 60 silver. It's the Kobold's retirement fund. Better get back to work there, Kobold. But anyway, we're going to sneak out the same way we came in. And now we can use the key that we got from the Kobold, no matter how you got it from him, to unlock the shackles on this bear and witness the transformation happening right in front of us. He should still be saved it from the food. You might want to cast Calm again just to be sure. I love that animation of the bear. And the bear and son. But anyway, so he tells you that you can head back to the Baron's Castle, which I guess we haven't even been to yet in this Quest for Glory 1 walkthrough. There's no reason to go there yet unless you want to make a little bit of scratch, very little bit of scratch, cleaning the stables and scooping up horse poop and stuff like that. But not for us this time. If we head to the castle, they will treat us like royalty, at least for the night. So we can go ahead and do that. You can do it whenever you want, but might as well just go ahead and do it now. And they receive you and treat you like the hero that you are. At least for the moment. A hero you're going to be throughout the course of this series. Get a nice meal out of it, sleep on a nice bed for the night. You can talk to the Baron and his son about a number of topics to get extra points, everything like that. But that's pretty much it. Once we head back outside, we'll be back in the courtyard area. And you might notice this weapons trainer showing up on the screen every now and then, and Blaze has something to tell us about him. Blaze?
Alright, the weapons trainer, the swordsman. The only class you can train with him is if you are the fighter, so pay up his fee and just go at him. He will probably beat the crap out of you the first several times you do it, but once you get your stats up, over time, you can take him down, I promise you that. And there's really no glory in it, just, you beat him, and it is what it is. But you know what? It feels pretty good.
Yes, it does, especially when he's such a sore loser like that. But let's mention also while we're here that you can go right one screen from that main area in the castle courtyard, and you can talk to this guy who will, I think, pay you 5 silvers for doing some work here. Basically just raking and moving around just crap on the ground, best I can tell. But whatever, it pays, and it's good for your strength, as the guy yells at you for resting for a couple seconds. But you can do this once every day to make some cash. But again, there's much better ways to do that. You don't have to lower yourself to that, except maybe very early on in the game. But we're a hero, We kill monsters. That's how we make our wage. So, but yeah, not a bad way to drain some stamina if you need to and pass some time taking a nap. But anyway, we have rescued the Baron's son now. And we can move on to, I guess, the next part of this quest, taking down the Brigands. Before we do that, though, head into that final stretch. Let's go back to Fluff for one more Fluff fact about Quest for Glory.
So we're bouncing back and forth between the EGA original and then the remade VGA version of Quest for Glory 1. And this was actually one of the final remakes made by Sierra. They went on a little streak in the late 80s and early 90s where they remade a lot of their initial versions of their main series games like King's Quest and Space Quest and Police Quest. But Sierra ultimately stopped creating updated versions of their games with the reasoning that they just weren't profitable enough. In general, this was true, but Quest for Glory 1's remake was the exception, as it was the only remake to outsell its original version. Alas, this wasn't enough to greenlight a remake of Quest for Glory 2, Trial by Fire, though an unofficial remake exists from AGD.
That's right, we did a Let's Play of it. Check the description of this video. And by the way, now that we have lots of money from both saving the Baron's son and cleaning out the Kobold's life savings, make it a point to stop off at the healer's hut on the way down back to Spielburg and purchase the undead unguent from her. We'll need it for a later quest, but you certainly have the money by now, so just grab that if you haven't got it already, and we'll use it later. But now we want to head to the tavern. You'll see this note on the ground, and regardless if you've been reading these notes throughout the course of the game, I think there's 2 or 3, after you rescue the Baron's son, you'll find this particular note where someone is urging someone else to meet them at the archery range, which is just south of Spielburg. So we're going to head down there now, and we want to make sure that we take this very specific route in order to eavesdrop on their meeting. So it's down 2 from the castle gates, or the Spielburg town gate, left 2, up 1, and then right 1. And then this will put us on the left side where we're behind some bushes, and we can eavesdrop on this meeting between a couple of the brigands here. And if they're not here when you get here, you might just need to nap for a bit, wait till the midday cycle when they'll actually show up. So just, rest a bit, throw some rocks, whatever you got to do. And eventually, you'll come over here and you will see them talking. You don't even need to sneak to not be seen, but if you're a thief, you might as well go ahead and do it. But you can witness this meeting undetected regardless of which character type you are. The important takeaway here is the secret code word, hide-and-go-seeky. This will save us a tricky battle here in just a moment, so just remember, that's one heck of a code word, by the way, hide-and-go-seeky. So remember that. After a moment, Bruno is going to leave, and Brutus is going to stay on the screen. You can kill Brutus and then go around and get the key that he has on him to open the secret back door to the Brigands' hideout. But just make sure before you kill him, or before you leave the screen, better said, that you wait about 20 or 30 seconds. Otherwise, Bruno is going to throw a dagger in your chest. Brutus will throw a dagger at you if you leave the screen and come back on too. So if you're going to kill him, just do it while you're still on the screen. Throw a dagger or a flame dart, whatever you want to do. But just be careful of the screens to the south in that area for a while, because Bruno's still going to be patrolling it. And yeah, again, he will throw a dagger right in your chest. But once it's clear after a while, you can go get that dagger. And then we're going to head down to where the Antwerp is bouncing around. I think from the screen with the meeting, it's 2 to the left and then 2 down, something like that. And you can fight the Antwerp. It's this bouncing creature. You can't actually fight it. It'll just keep missing. But then when you leave the screen, make sure that you take your dagger out, or your weapon, whatever it is, and use it on the Antwerp to protect yourself from getting squished. And you'll cause the Antwerp to split into a whole bunch of baby Antwerps, causing an Antwerp population explosion, which plays a role in at least one of the later games in the series. But you don't actually even have to fight the Antwerp, but it's worth some points, so you can go ahead and do that. But that's how you do it. But that'll get the Antwerp off that screen at least, and then we can focus on the door. And once again, we have different solutions depending on your character type on how to deal with this. So, Blaze, what do we do with the fighter?
Alright, when you get to this screen, you can force open the door if you are strong enough. No key necessary, nothing like that. Just fling it open, go inside. Don't even worry about strategy when it comes to the Minotaur inside. Just take him on like a fighter. That's what all the training's been about. I'm not Gary, but this is the toughest fight in all of Quest for Glory 1. Good luck taking him down. I know you can do it.
Alright, simple enough, and just open the door, but alright. Gary, magic user.
Alright, so near the end of the game, as the magic user, if your open spell is leveled up enough, you don't need the key on this door. You can just cast it. If you're close enough, it'll unlock it. It might not be high enough to open the door. You might need some strength mixed in there, or you can keep working with your spell to eventually open the door itself, in addition to unlocking it. And then as you pass through, you can say the magic words. And then when you get to the Minotaur, cast Calm. He'll chill out, he'll sit down, and you can just cast Open and go right on into the Brigands' hideout.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good work. So as the thief, you can just pick the lock if you get close enough to it and your skill's high enough. And then opening the door, you just need to be strong enough. Just give it a few attempts, and it'll actually get your strength up high enough that this should fling open. There you go. You can utter that secret word, hide-and-go-seeky, and then the troll, Fred, disappears into the cave. And this part's pretty tricky. In the VGA version, I think it's a bit easier to sneak past the Minotaur, but in the EGA, I couldn't, to save my life, sneak past this Minotaur with my current level, so I had to kind of cheat a little bit and get the Calm spell. But I'll say that if your sneaking is maybe 50 or so, and you start moving with him as soon as he starts moving left to right when you first get on the screen, and you go to that top rightmost point on that wall and climb over it there, that's how you can get in. It's just very difficult to do. You need to be sneaking for, I'd say, about 5 or 6 days straight to at least get to your sneaking to about 50. I think that's how the math works out. But anyway, once you're inside behind the walls, no matter what character type you are, you're going to have to watch out for these tripwires that the brigands, the sneaky brigands, put in place to alert them to your presence. You can point it out by looking at the wire, and then we want to take we'll step over the wire. In the EGA version, you just have to click the hand on it in the VGA version, and then walk over and you'll be fine. Make sure you walk over the right of these two little tiny plank bridges right here. It says cross here, but just, it seems like they're tricking you, but just a little bit of trust goes a long way in this case, as that is the right one to go on in more ways than one. And then one more tripwire up top, and you can get through here. Alright, so timing is very key on this screen. Make sure you save before you do anything. So you want to close the door first, that's right behind you. Then we want to move up here to this chair and block the right door by moving the chair. Now we want to wait until the Three Stooges brigands are just past the beginning of this table, then move the candle to knock it over. They'll have to go around the other way and then wait till they're at the end of the table, get on the table, and then there you go. You'll knock them down, let them get trapped, and then make sure you open the door quickly, otherwise more brigands will flood into the room. It's very tricky time-based puzzle, but it's a lot easier in the VGA version, I would say. But that's how you get through there. Now you're in Yorick's room, his fun house. This place can be a bit annoying, so the best way to go is go through the kind of pink area over here, pull the chain, come back out, go through the door, and then try to open the blue door. It's going to fall over. It's just make sure you step back out of the way. Kind of annoying, but just it's about to topple. Get back to safety there, and then open the actual door, and you'll be through his little fun house, and here is the leader of the brigands themselves. Hopefully you have that Dispel Potion like we recommended before. All the character types, it's playing out the exact same way. Just throw the Dispel Potion on the Brigands Leader and witness the transformation when it's actually Elsa, the Baron's daughter. So they'll tell you a couple things. Her and Yorick, after they leave, you can grab the mirror and you can get the potions they leave behind. You don't want to dally in this room. The brigands are trying to bust in and murder you. So just clean everything out. And then the exit's a little hard to find. It's between the chest right there and that, I guess, other chest. Just walk right through. You can't get any of the other jewels or anything, unfortunately. And at this point in the game, we have a choice. We can head back to the castle and end the game right now. Or, and we haven't even seen her yet, we can go deal with Baba Yaga, who has placed a curse on the Valley of Spielburg. So dealing with her seems like a pretty heroic thing to do, so let's do that. So before we go see Baba Yaga, at least in the VGA version, I recommend you do this first. In the EGA, you might want to go see her first, and then come back and do this. So, the timeline's going to be a little off here, but The idea is wait till it's midnight at some point. Doesn't matter what day it is. Just make sure it's midnight. Then rub that undead unguent all over our bodies. And then we're going to head to the graveyard. If you don't have the unguent on yourself, the spirits will kill you. It's pretty terrifying. Still gives me the creeps, but assuming it's midnight and you can check the clock in the game to confirm this, come in here and grab the root. If it's midnight and you did it right, it'll say you hear a scream of a dying child. Very dark, very scary, but otherwise it'll shrivel up in your hand if you grab it at any other time of the day or night, so make sure it's midnight. And then once you have that root, we can head just north of the Goblin Training Center. We're going to talk to the skull and give it the gem we've been carrying around for this entire game at this point. So finally going to get rid of this. And then to get Baba Yaga's chicken hut to come down and let us enter it, we need to say the rhyme, "Hut of Brown, now sit down." You just type that in the EGA whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter. In the VGA you can ask the skull about the rhyme and he'll tell you how to do it, but so you say the rhyme, "Hut of Brown, now sit down." It'll drop down, we can head inside. And if you've already got the root in the EGA version, it's a little screwy. It kind of screws up the quest, so you might want to make sure that you see her for the first time before you have the root, and she'll ask you to go get the root, then you can go get it. You can bring it back to her, and then go back in one more time and use the mirror, and you can turn her into a frog for a change. In the VGA, it's much less of an issue. You can have the root already in your possession. Go see her. She'll ask you to get the root. You'll go right back in. You'll give her the root. She'll send you out again. You go back in one last time, and then just make sure you have the mirror in your inventory, or just have it in your hand. And when she tries turning you into a frog, just like in the EGA version, you'll bounce the spell right back at her, make her hopping mad, and congratulations, you have beaten Quest for Glory 1, gotten the best ending. Again, to get the perfect score, it's kind of ticky-tack. You have to talk to everyone about everything, which is especially difficult in the EGA version because you might not know what to ask about in all the cases, and it takes a much longer time. In the VGA, they give you all those pre-written choices that you can click through and everything, so a little bit easier in that one, but still a bit of a slog getting every single point. But this is the best ending. Congratulations. See Yorick cartwheeling across the screen. They give you a sweet gem, and you get to do the hero pose. Strike it. There you go. Thank you to all of my TAs today for helping out, joining in all the different character types, learning a bit more about this fantastic game. I look forward to taking on the subsequent games in the series at some point. Please subscribe if you have not. One last time I'll ask you. We do one of these classes every single week, taking on the classics, giving you the behind-the-scenes information, the tips, the tricks, all that good stuff. So we'd love to have you enrolled in this class just by subscribing. If you like this video, please go ahead and click that like button. Leave a comment, let me know what your favorite character type to play this game with as. Any other good memories you have of this fantastic game. And we'll see you next week for next week's class in the same spot. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.